The frozen mud of a liberated Polish town clung to Captain David Miller's boots, a grim testament to the recent, brutal fighting. It was early 1945. The roar of the front lines had receded east, replaced by an uneasy silence, punctuated only by the distant rumble of Soviet heavy artillery. Miller, an American liaison officer with a background in engineering, was here to assess liberated infrastructure and aid displaced persons. He walked among the ruins, a man of hope trying to rebuild in a world still tearing itself apart. His primary contact was Major Lena Petrova, a Soviet intelligence officer whose presence in the town felt less like liberation and more like annexation. Her uniform was crisp, her movements precise, her face often devoid of expression. While their nations were allies against the common Nazi foe, a frigid ideological air already settled between them. A premonition of the Iron Curtain that would soon descend. It wasn't just a political divide. It was a chasm forming in the very way they viewed the liberated lands and the people within them. Their shared objective for the day was deceptively simple: locate and secure Professor Alistair Finch, a renowned British physicist believed to have been forced to work on a critical Nazi project in a hidden laboratory nearby. Finch was a prize, his knowledge potentially invaluable for the post-war world, either for peace or for future conflict. Both the Americans and the Soviets wanted him, but for starkly different reasons. Our reconnaissance indicates Professor Finch was last seen here, Miller stated, pointing to a partially collapsed pharmaceutical factory on a tattered map. The British want him returned home safely. We want to ensure his well-being and free will. Petrova's gaze was fixed on the map, her finger tracing a different path. Our intelligence places him in the old hospital basement. He is a resource of the liberated territories. The Red Army liberated this region. He will be secured and debriefed by us. Her voice was flat, definitive. The ownership was implied, absolute. Miller felt a familiar chill, colder than the January wind. Major Professor Finch is a British citizen. His freedom of movement, his choice, is paramount. Petrova finally looked up, her winter sky eyes piercing. Freedom, is he free if he carries the secrets of the fascists? He is now under the protection of the Soviet Union. His knowledge will serve humanity, guided by the party. The word party hung in the air, a heavy, unspoken counterpoint to Miller's free will. Despite their clashing objectives, the immediate threat of lingering Nazi patrols forced a fragile cooperation. They split their small teams, converging on the hospital, a bombed-out skeleton of a building. The air inside was thick with dust and the smell of decay. Miller's men moved cautiously, M1 Garand's ready, while Petrova's soldiers, armed with PPSHs, swept through with ruthless efficiency. They found him in the cramped, damp boiler room. Professor Finch, gaunt and disoriented, clutching a worn leather satchel. He was clearly traumatized, muttering about the calculations and the formula. "Professor Finch," Miller exclaimed, rushing forward, a genuine wave of relief washing over him. "Captain Miller, U.S. Army, we're here to get you to safety." But before Miller could reach him, Petrova's hand clamped down firmly on Finch's arm. "Professor, you are under the protection of the Soviet Union. You are safe now, comrade. We will take you to Moscow for rest and consultation." Her grip was not violent, but it was unyielding, possessive. Finch flinched, looking from Miller's outstretched hand to Petrova's firm grasp. A hunted animal caught between two predators who claimed to be saviors. Major Miller said, his voice taut, "You cannot simply take him. He has rights." Petrova turned, her face a mask of cold resolve. "Rights? In war, Captain, there are only necessities. The necessity of victory, the necessity of securing assets for the future. He is an asset." Suddenly, the crack of a sniper rifle shattered the tense silence. A lingering Nazi irregular, hidden in the ruins outside, was targeting the building. Panic erupted. Petrova's soldiers immediately returned fire, suppressing the sniper. Miller's men moved to cover Finch. In the ensuing chaos, the immediate need for survival forced their hands. They needed to get Finch out, now. Miller found himself covering Petrova's flank as she directed her men. Their movements surprisingly coordinated despite the underlying antagonism. They were soldiers again, not diplomats, bound by the universal language of combat. They managed to extract Finch, rushing him through the debris-strewn streets to a waiting Soviet jeep, Petrova's choice of transport already pre-positioned. As Finch was helped into the vehicle, he looked back at Miller, his eyes pleading, a silent question hanging between them. Professor Miller managed, his voice low. "I'll do everything I can." Petrova, already in the driver's seat, gave a curt nod of acknowledgement to Miller, devoid of warmth. "Our nations are allies, Captain," she said, her gaze unwavering, "but the world will soon be rebuilt. And in that rebuilding, there are different visions. Some are stronger than others." As the jeep sped away, kicking up mud, Miller watched it disappear into the gray morning. He knew Finch was safe from the Nazis, but what kind of safety awaited him? Petrova's words echoed in his mind. Different visions, stronger than others. The war raged on, but for Miller, the true conflict had already begun. The Iron Curtain wasn't a future construct. It was an early bloom, manifesting in the subtle power grabs, the ideological clashes, and the quiet, chilling assertions of control even amidst shared victory. The shadow of the future had already fallen, turning a wartime alliance into a stark premonition of a world divided. And he, Captain David Miller, had just witnessed its first chilling petals unfurl.